An epic tale of time travel, X-Men Days of Future Past sees Hugh Jackman as Wolverine fighting his biggest battle yet.
You'll need to go into the past to end this war before it ever begins.
Hugh, a very warm welcome to Top Billing. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, man.
Listen, I know that the Aussies and the South Africans, we don't get along too well,
Come on.
but in the spirit of acceptance,
Friendly banter.
in the spirit of acceptance, and that's what the X-Men movie is all about.
Thank you, brother.
I got you a South African supporter. Those colours look good on you. You should change allegiance, actually.
I don't know if I'll go that far, but I'm happy to wear the flag. It's even made in South Africa. Now, that's impressive.
That's an authentic supporter scarf.
There you go, man.
What an incredible journey it's been for you. I mean, 14 years ago, you were coming off the bench in your own words.
Yeah.
You weren't the first choice, but now 14 years later, record 7 films, and you are Wolverine.
It's probably why I'm not giving it up. The players who come off the bench never want to be taken off again because they know where they're going, back into the sheds. It's been an unbelievable journey. It surprised the hell out of me in every way. I never thought the first one would be as successful. I never thought we'd be back 14 years later doing a movie with all that original cast. And so much has happened. It was my first movie, and there we were on set. Halle Berry was pregnant. Ian and Patrick were all back together, and Ellen Page and Sean, and it was amazing, I feel very grateful.
Scotland's James Mcavoy plays the young Professor X.
Use your power. Bring the X-Men together.
Your character is in a very dark place in this movie as opposed to the last one. There's that nice dynamic now between you and Hugh's character because now you're almost switching roles. He's going back. He's going back now to get you out of the darkness, whereas before you were doing the same for him.
Yeah, Charles has always kind of put a hand on his shoulder and been like, "Come on, man, it's going to be okay," and stop crying. And now Hugh is the guy that's kind of going like, "Get a hold of yourself," cut your hair, and it's me that's going like all the time. So although I don't have the big fingernails, so it is fun though. It is fun reversing that relationship and presenting something different and new to the audience.
It's going to take the two of us, side by side at a time when we couldn't be further apart.
Unexpectedly, the film's arch enemies join forces to save the mutant race.
You took the things that mean the most to me. Maybe you should have fought harder for them.
Professor X is the world's greatest telepath, but one could argue that his greatest superpower is his empathy, and he's losing that in this movie.
Charles's greatest talent, attribute, the biggest thing he has to give to the world is not his superpower, it's his empathy, his generosity of spirit, and his interest in others. And that's entirely challenged. Not only that, his empathy hurts him in this movie. His superpower, which is just an extension of his empathy, really hurts him physically and emotionally and psychologically, pains him. And that's he has to challenge that. He has to, and quite often that's the case for people in their lives, and it's the thing that they're most good at, that it's the thing that people would say is the best about them that actually works against them as well, and that's certainly the case with Charles, and he has to challenge himself to deal with how painful just life is, really, and grow up.
All those years wasted fighting each other, Charles.
A lot of people die.
With an estimated budget of $250 million, the movie spans 6 countries in a war against killer robots.
We've been given a second chance.
What I still can't get my head around is just the scale of this reunion. I mean, 14 years later in this industry to have that kind of reunion.
It's true.
It's the biggest movie since Avatar. I mean, the anticipation is huge.
Well, and I'm glad. I'm glad there's high expectation, but I really confidently feel it will exceed those expectations, because as big as it is scale and action-wise and the world, and I mean, you get a little glimpse of it here, this dystopian future where, mutants are on the edge of extinction, and then you get all the fun of seeing go back in time. You have a time travel movie, you have this massive cast, action on a scale we haven't seen before, but what I think people love about X-Men is the characters. They love the storylines, they love that, and this has it in spades.
That's always been important to you. It's about the characters, about the emotion of the character, and that's what makes X-Men so accessible to us as an audience, because he's flawed. And I think us as audiences, we love a superhero who is dark and vulnerable.
You know, and it was revolutionary at the time. When the comic book came out in the 60s, the whole thing was an allegory for Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X. It had these kind of high-minded sort of ideals underneath all the fun and bam pop and I'm going to kill your bub and all of that. It really had something to say about this marginalised group, about fear towards the unknown, and it was, and which side should we be more militant like Magneto, or should we be going for peace and cohabitation like Professor Xavier? And so it's interesting talking to people like Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart. They are so protective of this franchise, as am I, because as is Bryan Singer, because yes, it's fun, yes, millions of people see it, yes, it's big and spectacular, but it's got something to say. It stays with you, and actually for teenagers, it's really relevant for them.
Is it true that your teenage son uses that as kind of his lead-in line, that my dad is Wolverine?
Yeah, I've overheard him doing it once. Yeah. I'm sure, if I've overheard it once, I'm sure he's used it more than once. But I think a lot of the time, it's interesting. When I walk with him in the street, he now walks ahead of me. He doesn't like it when people are noticing me and commenting about me and wanting to come up with me. He finds it embarrassing. You know, he's almost 14. Everything's embarrassing. First of all, your parents are embarrassing, full stop. But life is embarrassing. You don't want to be noticed or different. But hey, when he's going to get a girl, father's son, he'll do whatever it takes.
Permission to use that. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, man.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm enjoying
I'm going to get so much help from my mates in Australia for what.
Cheers, man.
Guide us. Lead us.
I don't want your future! We were supposed to protect them!
You're afraid. I remember.
X-Men Days of Future Past opens on the 23rd of May.